G'day again, everyone. Okay, let's do another update on the van. Well, the most stressful part is finished. It did go reasonably well. I had to spend a bit of time considering how I was going to do it and work out what was the best way to do it. I did actually make a mistake, which can only be corrected with putty now, but anyway, I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, I've still only tacked just to, not the light. Inside what's left of the wheel arch, got a couple of tacks down the bottom there. I should put a few more actually, I think, before I take it off the chassis. A couple down in here. I'm not going to plug weld them. I'm going to drill holes and plug them. So what I'm going to do is just put a series of tacks on the outside edge and then trim it up. I really don't like welding upside down to start with, and there's also, there seems to be a whole lot more heat in a plug weld than what you get in a short run. And you also, unless it's clamped, it'll lift between the two of them and so on. So what I did first, I said I had it tacked, and then I could still see daylight through it, so I cut. I only had 2 or 3 tacks, so I cut them off and thought, well, I've got to pull it down. So what I did here, I've got the light again actually. Sorry about this. Yeah, what I did here, somewhere in here, there's a bit of metal. Yeah, tossed it back in the pile. Yeah, that bit. Had that sitting up in the top here like that, and the other bit I won't be able to show you. I was showing it back out in the scrap pile. I had a piece of 50 square tube up underneath there, so the clamp would reach it. When I got up here, it still wouldn't reach it. I actually had to add another piece onto it so I could reach it with the clamp. And yeah, so I've pulled it all down. So yeah, pulled it down, lined it up on the outside, put a tack in it, did that all the way along, most of the way along, and yeah, and I plug welded it together. I've got the stand that's over here. I've got foam wrapped around it that was soaked in water. And also had another bit of rag over that again. And I had a bucket of water handy, and I just kept pouring water on it each time I'd move it, make sure it stayed cool. I had that resting. Let's do a proper demo. That resting gets the panel like that. I kept pouring water on it to keep the outer part of the panel cool, and then with each plug weld I would hit it with the air gun. Still doing on that too. Okay. So yeah, I would I actually had the light hanging up here like this while I was welding it, because it fell down a couple of times, but anyway. Yeah, so I would, right, I started next to the clamp, left it clamped, even though I tacked it on the outside, I left the clamp there. And, yeah, did a plug weld, and then I'd get in there with the air, blow that off, blow underneath there, check it outside with my hand, and yeah, because it basically took me the whole day to do this along here. Oh, I did this one first. Did this one first and fully welded all that back in so it wouldn't move. Yeah, and then I did this. But as I said, this basically took me the entire day to weld along. It was so slow and I was so stressed about it, and but I didn't get any major buckling. Probably can't pick it up with the phone. No, it's not good. In the daylight, you can actually see where each plug weld is. Can't feel it, but you can see it. There's, it's pulled in just that little bit, but it's absolutely minimal. I won't even need to putty that. That'll primer will fill that. 2-pack primer. I only ever use 2-pack primer here. Yeah, don't ever try to fill with acrylic primer. As soon as you put the top coat on it, it'll turn to liquid again and form the surface underneath it. 2-pack won't do that. So yeah, I only ever use 2-pack primer. Even if I'm doing an acrylic top coat, or even an enamel top coat, I'll still use an acrylic primer, a 2-pack primer. When after I'd done along there, I came round to the front pillar. And there's already a hole in there, but it wasn't really big enough, so I cut a window out of that. And yeah, joined it all back together up as far as I was within about an inch of this edge here, because there's another piece going inside it, so there's about an inch that's not welded, which shouldn't be an issue. I'll just make sure it's sealed. I actually made a mistake there. Need to get this junk out of the car yet. Right, it's the ute. Because this was a ute panel, not a panel wind panel. And actually, the ute window panel starts about here. So this is where it was cut off. And I'd cut the original panel back a fair way. So I had to actually make up a piece to join from here to here, and the same in there. And yeah, I was saying in the last video how I was going to tap that bit out where I'd bend it not so well. I thought once I get it on there, it'll be easy to work because it's not flopping around everywhere and on the floor and all that. But I actually forgot about it. I cut this window out so I could see it, and then I went ahead and welded it, and then when I'd finished I got out and remembered I hadn't actually pulled it out enough. So it doesn't actually, it's not much, it's about 2 mil further in here, between here and here, than what it should be. And to try to detach it again would even make even more of a mess, so it's just going to have to stay that way now. That's going to have to be 2 inches of putty across the top of that. Yeah, this bit filled in okay. I welded all this. I did check the door. At first, the door actually sticks out a fair way. first it wouldn't go on actually. I had to cut up in here, push this in further. I don't know why, it should be the same on the ute as the van, but anyway. Yeah, and then I measured from the other side, and this was actually right, but it was a long way in from the door. You know, it was about, a good 5-6 mil in. So I pulled out a little bit. I pulled it out about 4 mil. I didn't want to go any further than that. And also this line here wasn't lining up with the door, and I was wondering why it wasn't. You know, it was all pulled up nice there, and it was fitting nice down the bottom, and then I realised that this part here matches the door exactly, and I had a good look at the door, and it's the door that's incorrect. So yeah, I left it then and welded all this in, and then have to correct the door to match this. The line. I've taken the door back out of the garage now, but the door, being a Statesman door, had holes for a large protector strip that went just above it, and that's how I realised the line was out, because the lines at the front of the door were right on this ridge here, and when they got to the back of the door, they were up, about centimetre or something, 10 mil. So yeah, the door's going to have a bit of work done to it now, so that it will fit the panel. But yeah, the panel itself's actually gone quite good. I did all of this here. Actually started cleaning that up. This panel here was dented. It was where I actually backed into the house, knocked the veranda post down. So I cut that whole piece right off and straightened it up, welded it all back in. And I've cleaned that up now with a grinder. So that bit's finished. I put my bolts in here, drilled a few holes, put some plug welds in. That's all done. I'll probably have to get the light again to show you. Oh no, you can see it. This here is a bit I left to last, because this is main part of your structure. I didn't want to cut any of that away until the rest of this was, structurally sound. So I cut a window in here which wasn't big enough. I had to cut a second piece out. And do the same as up the front, make up a plate to join that bit to this bit, and that all went fairly well. It's actually quite a bit of surface rust in there, so it was a good thing having this window on it, because I was actually able to treat it in the process. Had a bit of an issue welding it back in, as you can see, pretty daggy weld. It's because I'm trying to weld upside down over here, and because I had a bit too much curve in me welding line. When you get down to a 0.6 wire, if you bend the line too much, this line here, unless you've got it almost straight, you get that much of a bend in it, and it interferes with the wire speed, and that's the issue I was having down the bottom there, which is why I've got such a huge daggy weld in there. But anyway, it'll grind off, so it's not that big an issue. It's just a bit more work cleaning it up. So that's where we're at to now, and now I've got to wait a few days. I can't. I could lift it off the chassis, but I got nothing to actually sit it on once I wheel the chassis out. And my neighbour is a professional tree cutter. He's going to bring me around some pieces of tree trunk to sit it on, which will be nice and stable. So yeah, worth waiting for that. Since pulled the engine out, I've stripped it down, and now I'm a bit concerned about this too because it's got a bit more wear than I expected to see. Like, yeah, I've been driving this for 20 years, but yeah, even after 20 years it wasn't burning oil, or, you know, I've never seen it blow smoke or anything like that, so I expected it was actually fairly decent. But yeah, you won't be able to see it here, but there is a little bit of a lip. It's not really very much, but I don't know, I'm a bit concerned about it. You get the issue where, you know, like you can run a hone through it, but if you try and grind that lip off, you end up wearing the rest of the board down, and, you know, you're enlarging it, making it worse. And if you don't grind it off, then you have an issue of, yeah, especially when you're replacing mains and big ends, yeah, because when they wear, your pistons aren't coming up quite as far. Like, I mean, it's bugger all, it's a couple of thou, but when you put them back in, they come up that couple of thou further, and that lip can actually break the rings. I've had it happen. Yeah, and I've also I did have a head gasket issue. I put a bit of seal up in it, and that was 5-6 years ago, and hasn't had an issue since. But yeah, I knew there'd be a bit of an issue with it, with the head, and it's already been machined twice. I don't know how many times you can machine it, but yeah, I'll strip it down a bit more, take the starter and the oil pump and the engine mounts off, and yeah, clutch, flywheel, all that. I thought I was going to need a pulley for the harmonic balancer, but yeah, I was able to just pull it off. It doesn't wedge on there much at all, so yeah. Used a rattle gun to undo the front harmonic balancer nut, and the ones for the timing chain sprockets. I'll be putting a new chain of sprockets on there. Yeah, rattle gun gets them undone pretty good. I'll show you the heads. I'll show you, see what I mean. I wish I could have showed you on the motor. Right. These are the manifold gaskets, and you can see they've been leaking across here into the inlet ports. This is the water jacket, this is the inlet port, and on all four corners you can see where it's been actually leaking. And it can't have been leaking much because it didn't seem to use a lot of coolant, you know, like, but yeah, you can see it has been leaking, so I'm going to take that one with me as well and get a bit of advice on that from the place that I'll be getting my new parts from, and possibly a rebore, I think. Issue with the rebore is I've got a budget, and yeah, the more rebore times 8, it's probably, I think the last time I got a rebore was about $40. That was a single cylinder, so you'd expect it to be 50 to something by now, so it's 50 times 8. And then, you know, pistons can be up to $100 each, depending on where you get them from. So it's also times 8. So that's sort of a bit of a worry at the moment, because, yeah, as I said, the more I spend on this, the less I've got to spend on other things like getting my seats done, replacing my wheels, you know, etc., etc. But that's how it is. That's how it is. Grab the torch again. You can see it here. We've got carbon on all the pistons. Actually, that one's got a bit of clear too. Yeah. This is the side that had 2 stretched head bolts, which was this bolt here, and this bolt's actually got a bit of gunky oil.
But that could have actually been from when I cooked it up in Sydney and I changed it in my son's backyard without a whole lot of equipment. So I didn't have a compressor to blow it all out with, and etc., etc. So that watery oil could have been in there from the previous time. There was only one that said it's a gunky bolt, but yeah. You couldn't see any leak there, but yeah, we have got a watermark on the piston, so yep, looks like it was leaking there. Tiny bit in that corner, not much. But mainly here, see the clean areas of piston. Yeah, that's water leak, coolant leak. So, yeah, we do have an issue with this head. I found that this is where most of my oil leak was coming from. I found that the gasket pulled inside here and pulled outside up here, so I'll be paying attention to that when I put it back together, make sure it stays in place. So, yeah, I've gone along and today I spent $700 and something today. I bought a few other bits and pieces, clean up bits and stuff, but got a set of shackle bushes from the back for the leaf springs. This is from Rare Spares. Got clips from my blinker, my indicator. I've got a new indicator. And they only come in one colour, which is probably the most uncommon colour of the lot, the maroon. But anyway, to paint that black. My one is broken, it's held together with duct tape. Yeah, they're the front lowers. And somewhere here, there you go. Got some front uppers here somewhere too. Yeah, I might have left them in the boot of the car. Oh no, there they are, right, just look at my eye, just where I went a snake, it would have bit me. So there's the front uppers. So yeah, that was about $250 just for the bushes and the indicator. Then I went along to Petters. I've got a set of front shocks, so $350. And he's had to order the rear ones in, but there'll be another $350 for the rears. And I've mentioned this before in videos. Yeah, I put Petters springs and shocks under this 20 years ago, and they've only just recently worn out. I've got 20 years use out of that, so yeah, you can't ask for more than that. So go them again. They were good. They handled good. So, yeah. And while I'm waiting for my tree trunks, I'll show you something. This is a very common place on these HQ to WB models to get rust. Having done this in the previous ute I had, because as I said, the chassis is a ute, I bought the shell, put it onto a ute chassis. And I had to do this in the ute as well. And whenever you got a hole in this corner, you're going to have a bigger hole underneath. I'll show you. Cut this off. I was only going to cut it to there, but then I put the torch under there and I could see all the surface rust right up to here somewhere. So, right, okay. It's probably a good thing anyway to cut up here rather than to cut across the top and have to try and match it up and putty it anyway. So anyway, take that off. Got that little bit of rust there. The rest of it's actually pretty good. I've got a mount here which I cut through. I've just sort of jammed that, but I'm going to have to... That's probably supposed to be welded under there and isn't. So I'm going to have to check the height, get the height right, and then weld that on. But this is what you find. This was one big hole. And the water will get in there, and it'll even flow up over the top into there too, and you'll get water leaking down into your cab. So Yep, just something to consider if you've got one of these models and you got a hole in the corner, expect to find a bigger hole underneath. And this is about 3 panels spot welded together. You got this underside panel which comes up. You got this panel, and I don't know if this panel goes across or whether they've just layered it or something, but that's really quite thick. And I would actually like, because there's probably rusted between the 3 panels, but I would actually like to cut that right out, but I'm not going to, because especially while the windscreen's out, I could brace it, of course, but yeah, if I cut any more out of that, I risk it moving. I risk it having an issue with the door not fitting or the windscreen not fitting or something. Yeah, so if you're cutting into this, just be very careful. If this is all rusted away, then do it a bit at a time. Weld that back in, do it in like 3 sections or something. But yeah, that's as much as I'm going to cut out of that. I'm just going to treat it, and I'll come up from the inside there. So that's a hollow panel that goes down inside it. So I'll spray all up from in under there with fish oil and stuff and try and seal it up. Rust, even if you can't treat it, if you can seal it up, if you can stop the oxygen getting to it, you will at least slow it down. So, yeah. And I haven't cut the other side off, but there's going to be the same issue on the other side. So, yeah. Okay, well, that's where we're up to. So this is tonight's job, is to weld all this back in, get some, I'll paint that, even though it'll burn it off again around the edges, but yeah, I'll get some more of that red oxide into here. I'll scrub it and treat it and put some red oxide under it, and same with that, the underside of that. Oh, yeah, after I welded the patches in, of course, and then I'll weld that back on, and yeah, hopefully I'll get that finished tonight. So, okay, thanks for watching.